It's 5:45 p.m., which means it's time for BCTV's weekly media roundup, 545 Live. I'm Roland Boyden.
And I'm Abby Sherlock. On deck tonight, with Act 46 accelerated merger deadline looming, what's up with the WSESU study? Jamaica residents vote on a massive town garage upgrade, and for a second time, the New England Coalition goes after Vermont's Public Service Board, and much more.
All that, and we'll fit it into 15 minutes, so hopefully you've got some time to stick with us. Welcome back to this May 20th, 2016 edition of 545 Live. We're going to launch right into the headlines here, and for that I'll turn it back over to you, Abby, and we're going to give you a close-up here.
The WSESU Act 46 Study Committee is still at a loss on what to do without Vernon, as discussed at the most recent meeting, which took place on May 4th. A request to vote on the Act 46 articles was made, but committee members were hesitant, still looking for an update on the legality of Vernon, who has already sought legal counsel. A motion was then, quote, passed to respectfully request information from the Agency of Education regarding the legality of the Vernon School Board by Monday, May 9th. A motion was then passed to move forward with releasing of petition forms with pending minor edits to prepare for the possibility of a potential accelerated merger, giving taxpayers a break and turning the supervisory union into a preferred structure. There was no movement to vote on the articles, as the committee was not confident on legal standing, but all committee members were willing to wait until a definitive answer on the Vernon situation comes from the Agency of Education. Vermont Secretary of Education Rebecca Holcomb later wrote in to the WSESU to say that Vernon has, quote, no legal authority to withdraw the school district from the Windham Southeast Supervisory Union Act 46 Study Committee, meaning that the committee will still continue to work and will have the autonomy to name Vernon as a necessary district or an advisable district. Vermont law states that a study committee can discontinue only if the committee either prepares proposed articles of agreements or the committee decides against forming a union school district. Vermont School Board Chairman Mike Heber is currently waiting for a response from his attorneys on the matter, but made it clear he wants to retain school choice for Vernon, which would be possible if the Brattleboro Union School District was disbanded. However, when this option was discussed, a majority of the committee disliked the idea. The study committee will continue to meet until a consensus is reached.
The uniqueness of Vernon's situation gave us pause when we started going into the Act 46 study group situation, and we specifically said, will Vernon be able to keep this unique situation with school choice? I every day would ask the committee up there, are we going to keep school choice? Yes, we're putting Section 4 in to keep school choice.
The Secretary of Education very clearly talks about promoting the fact that these are all of our students. It shouldn't be a delineation based on town borders. If we're looking at pooling our resources, then it really is the concept of all of our students.
One of the reasons we have withdrawn is we don't think the outlying towns should be just advisable. If we're not necessary, let us out. If the AOE decides that Vernon must belong to this study group, and their attorney says so, well, our attorney says we don't. So I think what will happen is we would end up in litigation. We'd be in court. And I've said that, the final determiner will be some judge on some, whether it's Superior Court or Supreme Court or whatever, somebody else will make that decision.
And with so many layers to Act 46, it can be a bit of a jumble to sort through the bevy of coverage available on BCTV. In particular, I'd maybe note that Vermont Ed Secretary Rebecca Holcomb has made not one but two visits to town that were both recorded by BCTV, once when Act 46 was new to everyone in the region.
I think we have to have this conversation about what needs to be done at the classroom level between parents and teachers and children, what needs to be done in local communities, and where is it that maybe we need to think about a bigger structure. I mean, right now, the smallest district in the state, serving, 15, 17 kids, has to do everything the city of Burlington does. I'd rather have those resources freed up to focus on those kids in the classroom.
Vermont Ed Secretary Rebecca Holcomb, when she did a special presentation this past month in Putney when she attended a WSESU Act 46 study committee meeting to answer committee members' specific questions, in particular pointing out where actual savings to the taxpayers can be found and perhaps more importantly, where they can't. As she stressed, the tax incentives the legislature attached to the accelerated merger option is specifically to help pay for costs associated with the mergers themselves, not to provide direct financial incentive to the taxpayers. Although the interesting note here is that if you subscribe to the belief that the larger mergers are inevitable for schools in the state, and while that point is very much up for debate, that's certainly part of Act 46's very DNA. If mergers are coming down the line one way or another, the accelerated merger provides some cost coverage for the inevitable costs that mergers will create beyond any long-term savings they may or may not produce. As for Vernon voters and the fate of their highly coveted school choice, no one seems to know for sure. But with the majority of the focus from the state being on an equalized experience for every single student in the state, it's hard to see something that gives only a select few students from one town additional opportunities for a personalized education, making it in the long run.
And speaking of Vernon, over on the select board side, some big news for them, as Michelle L. Pong of West Chesterfield was recently appointed the Vernon Town Administrator after a long interview process with the Town Administrator Search Committee. Pong grew up in Brattleboro and attended Keene State College before working in broadcast journalism and public relations. Directly prior to the appointment, she was the program director of the Lead Safe and Healthy Homes program in Bellows Falls since 2007.
I'd like to introduce to you all our new administrator, Michelle Pong. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, we head north to Jamaica for our next story, as this past Tuesday marked a big day of voting for local residents who were given a chance to rescind their own March 1st vote to approve a bond of up to $750,000 to construct a new town garage, something that was approved by a townwide vote earlier this spring, only to be returned to the ballot after town residents opposed to the spending collected 68 signatures to that effect. However, this being a vote to rescind, not a vote to approve, it required a total of 100 or more no votes against the bond in order to overturn the original March 1st vote, a number approved by the Secretary of State's office after Jamaica's town attorney was asked to consult with the state over procedures given when we're talking about all these vague bond laws for municipalities in the state of Vermont. Now that 100-vote margin was only narrowly missed this past Tuesday as 84 Jamaica residents turned out to vote against the bond for the new garage. But as they came up 16 votes short to overturn, the town announced Wednesday its plans to take the bond and project forward.
I think you kind of answered your own question. When we had our hearings prior to the vote, it became clear to us that whether the vote passed or whether it doesn't, and now if the new vote passes or it doesn't, one way or the other, we're going to need to come up with some engineering designs, because if this vote fails, or if your vote succeeds and therefore it nullifies the previous vote, then it's clear to us that in order for us to present this project to you again, we do need to have engineering plans designed.
Moving on, construction projects before the voters are afoot in Newfane, as well as they gave Select Board viewers a look at 4 potential upgrade routes for new town offices, something the board elected to divide into 4 committees, with each group focusing all their attentions on analyzing only one of the options, with each team reporting back at their findings at this Monday's regular scheduled Newfane Select Board meeting.
We can't just keep saying, well, we're going to have informational meetings, and if we want to move forward on this, we have to be discussing the fact that we are informing people with the goal of having a vote pretty soon about if we're going to do this or not.
That's a short clip from this past Monday's Newfane Select Board meeting, and of course we were talking about lots of happenings in Jamaica as well. For the full picture, you can check out the full meetings from both of those towns just 2 of the 8 towns that BCTV serves by covering their select board meetings. You can find it all to stream at BrattleboroTV.org.
Next up, the New England Coalition has accused the Vermont Public Service Board for presenting, quote, false and misleading information tainted with bias, error, self-contradictions, and gross omissions. Entergy applied to the PSB for a certificate of public good to build an independent spent fuel storage installation to store the nuclear waste the Vermont Yankee plant produced. The fuel has already been removed from the plant reactor and is being moved to dry casks, but according to PSB, the fuel may be required to be hidden from off-site viewing, which is difficult for the NEC to attain, suggesting to instead hold the fuel in a protective berm. The NEC is now trying to expedite the storage of the fuel, but they do not want to go forward with the, quote, inaccurate testimonies from the PSB.
A lot to follow there, and there is some in-depth coverage of that in this most recent edition of the Commons, which you can find at commonsnews.org if you want to follow that story. They've been tracking all the PSB hearing stuff, so you can check out their coverage as well. And we're going to close out our headline coverage before we move on to things like calendar and weather with one more headline story here. A Chesterfield man was taken into custody last Friday after being suspected of passing 3 $100 bills out at 3 convenience stores around Cheshire County. Peter Giandolone, 22-year-old, printed over a $20 bill so it would appear as a $100 bill. Giandolone used the fake bills 3 times before being identified from stills from video surveillance. The Keene police then searched Giandolone's residence and found a computer, printer, and chemicals. Giandolone is being held with $10,000 bail, which would take a lot of fake $100 bills to total up to, and has been cited with 3 counts of forgery.
All right, with that, it's time to launch into our calendar coverage, and we'll start with Next Stage Arts as they get set to present the pop rock activist band Betty. This musical trio features Allison Palmer and sisters Elizabeth and Amy Ziff, and the group has been featured worldwide. Betty, formed in 1986, uses their outreach to work for equal rights, peace and aid, and the empowerment of girls and women by working directly with the U.S. State Department. The band will be playing at Next Stage Arts in Putney tonight at 7:30, and tickets will be available at the door, so it's not too late.
Next up on the calendar, the Orchard School will be hosting a spring festival this coming Saturday, May 21st from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. This family event will have spring-related activities from across the world, and children will be given a passport to be stamped at each activity. From Morris dancing to Japanese tea ceremony, children of all ages are encouraged to attend.
And before we close out this episode, let's take a look at this weekend's weather, courtesy of the High School Morning News Advisory Crew, BUHS TV.
Friday is going to be where it's at. It's going to be 77 with a low of 47. So during the day, I mean, it'd be a nice day to like skip school, go to the beach. I don't know. But it's just going to be a nice day, so do you Friday.
That does it for another edition of 545 Live. Thanks for checking in with us. We'll be back next week right here on BCTV Comcast Cable Channel 8 at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time. In the meantime, thanks for watching.
Take a little time to tune into what you're about to see. This ain't ordinary, this is high school TV. Giving you the news, local sports, and the weather too. Gotta tune in if you wanna know how we do. It's all about excitement, having fun, cause that's what we do. Take a little time, listen up, just stay tuned. BUHS TV.